Hey guys, welcome back to Nosedive. Here, Renee with Mara. And it's been a little minute, but yeah, we're happy to be back and really excited to talk about this topic today. And it's our first request. So I'm really excited because I think it's something that people, one, like to talk about and kind of ruminate and stew in a little bit, maybe even a little controversial maybe. But yeah, Mara, if you could dive in to this first request, I'm so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I was even thinking like, oh man, we could potentially be setting ourselves up for just some major heat. So,
Yeah,
because I think it can be controversial, which is just interesting in itself. It's like we don't, just this is fluid,
I know.
y'all. Let people identify how they like to identify and around this topic. If it's all, what we're here for is about supporting people through the journey. We don't really care how you label it, but we're going to break down today the different topics or different categories of sobriety. So we got a request, and I'm going to read it from my phone here. Yeah. She said, I don't know if talking about drugs is outside of y'all's vision, but just like California sober, LOL. Like someone I looked up to, I was told was 20 years sober, then found out he's Cali sober, AKA smokes weed and does shrooms. Pretty much of the earth is Cali sober, LOL. But could be a fun topic, just like what is Cali sober, etc. But also not a bad thing. Like for some people, weed is better than alcohol, etc. It's all just gray area. So, and they also acknowledge that it could be a wormhole. And yeah, we
It
agree.
is.
But yeah, this is such a fun, interesting topic because yeah, we're all just kind of like, hold on, we've heard different terms before, like Cali sober, sober curious, sober, mindful drinking, you know, all of those things. So we're gonna kind of break down the different topics, and hopefully this can be a resource to maybe help you figure out where you fit in or where you want to fit into, and um, how to how to get there. So
Yeah, what's the
shall
first one, Mara? Gray area?
yeah, gray area.
Yeah. So, gray area, I mean, I feel like I can maybe resonate with this one the most because that's where I was. This is kind of like, or how we categorize it, just sort of the beginning stages of maybe understanding or wanting to maybe find more information. Like, you're kind of like on the cusp of making that next decision. So, you're kind of like, I feel like there's something here, but I'm not really sure. Is it that I have a problem? No. Okay, so maybe there is just something there. So I feel like you know that there is something there, but you can't really put your finger on it, but you're starting that process of getting the wheels turning of like, maybe there's something here and maybe I should be doing something about it.
Yeah, exactly. To my understanding, it's sort of, you're not in a place where you've hit rock bottom and you're kind of in the contemplation stage. There's uncertainty, but you're starting to reflect like, okay, I know my life isn't, in shambles right now because I am consuming alcohol or other substances. But I also know like there's a little voice that's like, this probably isn't doing, helping you to get where you want to go. So it's
Yeah.
that first layer of contemplation, I agree.
Yeah, and I think too it's like it could also be where it's like the identifier under subcategory or something. There's so many categories, but like if you see yourself as like, oh, I'm kind of only a social drinker, or oh, I'm only, drinking when I do such and such. Like I feel like that's probably around the same lines of like gray area.
Yeah, but I think we'll get into mindful drinking, and that's where people have boundaries around when they choose to drink,
Mm,
which is like
right.
I only drink so quote unquote socially, or I only drink on special occasions, but that often times is something that those decisions are made through the process of giving yourself space to actually define what you want the boundaries to be. It's more mindful. It's not just an assumption that, oh, yeah, I drink only like social settings. Oh, I only drink da da da. Like, did you actually give yourself the space and time to actually be truthful about when and how much and all of that? Um, I also
Yeah,
kind of
maybe
want
I
to
got ahead of myself.
I also wanted to backtrack and just say, like, we're not at all giving medical advice, like regarding
No.
this. We're just like talking about the different categories that we have seen and work through with our clients, even with ourselves, just sharing that as knowledge. The second category that you may hear quite often is sober curiosity. And that is the realm that we really like to dance in because it's inviting people into a stage of exploration, a stage of mindfulness, and it's really lifestyle driven. So, and that could be for many different reasons. Maybe it's wellness, maybe it's spiritual quest, maybe, maybe it has to do with your career goals. It could be anything around just wanting you're looking at your lifestyle and you are seeing that there's opportunity for growth in your life, and you're open to exploring how alcohol or other substances may be hindering you from that process. So there's that mindfulness approach, that exploration, that playful side of it, and it's open literally to anyone who's just curious. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
think it's a natural progression from that sort of murky area where you're trying to understand or make sense of the feelings that you might be feeling in that gray area. To me, sober curiosity is sort of taking that first step into what that means for you, what actions you need to take, that introspective peeling of the onion, peeling of the layers to kind of get to that more of like root and grounded foundation of like trying to understand your behaviors. And that's where, as you said, the exploration, the introspective nature, and just kind of playing around with it and having fun and trying to determine what's going to work best for you.
Yeah, totally. And then I feel like from here, there's kind of a couple different ways people decide to go. Um, through the sober curious phase, we highly encourage that people give themselves like a true break and space from alcohol to really determine what they want their relationship with alcohol to be, whether that becomes the more mindful drinking, the one that has more boundaries in place because they have given themselves the space and time away from it to distinguish what that is for them and what feels good for them. Or some people are like, wow, I absolutely love my life so much better without this substance, period. So I'm going to remain alcohol free by choice. And yeah, so that's interesting. So, we some people go the alcohol free route and then some people step into the more mindful drinking category.
Yeah. And that, I guess, that's where I was saying I kind of got ahead of myself. And this is sort of the stage that it's like, okay, I've had some time and space to really understand how my body feels physically, how my mind feels without having any kind of substance at all. Kind of, they say it when you're working out and stuff too, when you're starting that kind of programming. It's like, you have to have or find your baseline and what your body needs, how your body feels without it. So it's like you've kind of done a lot of that prep work, getting into the nitty gritty of the work itself. And so now I feel like it's stepping into that next phase of like, okay, this is what's going to feel best for me. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm not drinking so much on the weekends. I know for a fact, like, I don't have an alcoholic drink as my first drink. So that way you're doing more zebra striping, is what they call it, where every alcoholic drink, you have a non alcoholic drink, all these different like little things that really set you up to automatically drink less because you want to drink less. So just I think going into these situations where you are intentionally making decisions to ensure that you aren't drinking as much as you were in the past.
Yeah, that intentionality piece for sure.
Yeah.
Keeney is just in the background here chirping along to our conversation. He
Our
must agree.
mascot is
Yeah.
here.
Scott. Oh, I think too that, there can be some confusion in, when you're in that gray area, like to really check in, because I think a lot of people, including myself, when I was, in that space, probably of just like, oh yeah, I barely drink. Like we always, like, oh yeah, I barely eat a lot of chocolate. Yeah, right. Like if I actually look at the situation, like I'll probably be surprised about how much chocolate I eat. But so that's just kind of an invitation. If you notice that that's kind of your first like reaction, like, oh no, 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 you know, okay, cool. If you're like totally fine with everything, then fine, whatever, do you, but if
Yeah.
you're actually here and you are trying to become more mindful, allow yourself to just like explore that, like soften there a little bit and explore, um, how often it actually is and like what's the reasoning behind it, so
Dude, I mean, you are preaching to the choir with that because when I started tracking how much I actually was drinking, woo, yep, it was like 15 to 20 drinks a week. Like, and it's probably honestly more than that because at that point I was tracking and I was like, oh, God, I need to dial this back a little bit. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's a challenge that you can take away from this is like make those tick marks, get a calendar out, piece of paper. I know there's so many different apps out there. Like I use Sunnyside, but there's so many different apps out there where it's not so much about. And if you do want to track just like your days in general, that's good too. That's a good tool. But just to kind of see how many drinks that you are imbibing in a day, just to kind of understand the reality of it.
yeah, totally. And then we have another category, which I think most people are most familiar with, which is the recovery, um, sober space. Typically like through a 12-step program or AA, or there's so many other recovery programs out there now, which is amazing. But typically that's like you're in a situation where you're hitting rock bottom. There's no room, space, or time for you to be consuming substances because it could be your life is on the line, someone else's life's on the
Right.
line. It's just not, um yeah, it's not an exploration. It's not really about that. It's like, yeah, we're doing this. And yeah, we're so grateful that there are the resources out there. But
Yeah.
Renee and I mostly, like, our expertise is in the sober curious realm. Folks who can explore, and want to explore their relationship and redefine it. Um, and then, Nay, you found this one, which was it's fun because it's like it's so punk,
Yeah.
but straight edge,
Yeah, straight
from the
edge.
80s. So tell us a little bit about
Mm.
this.
Yeah, so, when I think about this too, I that was actually my first introduction to any kind of label or identity that had to do with drugs and alcohol, like removing that from your life. Because in high school, just like give you a little background and go down memory lane here. My my friend group as of now, like we've been friends since high school. My husband was in this same friend group and they're in like a hardcore band and they were all straight edge. And I was like, what the fuck is straight edge? And yeah, it's this premise of like almost defiance and it's linked and layered in with um punk music and it was back in the 80s and it's all about reclaiming the identity against social norms. So
Mhm.
like really pushing the boundary of like we are so clear and into music and going against the grain, and it's for all of those kids who were in that punk scene that were, the outcasts and the peons and all of that shit. And so it was their way to kind of claim how I think they were viewed by the public, to kind of throw it back in their face a little bit. But yeah, it's just like a different take on something that's, of course, has evolved into all these different types of identities, but it's a more punk one. So I kind of
Yeah.
like it. Plus,
I
it's just
love
like
it.
nostalgia for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so fun and just such a fun, it's a fun concept.
And
Um,
there's still bands, like there's still hardcore bands. There's still like it's straight edge is still a thing.
a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forever live straight edge.
XXX.
Yeah, yeah. And, something we were talking about earlier before we jumped on is like, you know, we support all of this, like all the different categories that someone might, feel like they fit into. And we recognize that our brains want to be able to categorize things and understand and like, oh, okay, so, I'm this or I'm that, but to also just kind of like at the end of the day, like our message is like it just shouldn't be a big deal like whether or not you choose to drink or if you're dry-ish, or whether or not you want to use any of this terminology, like it just shouldn't be a big deal. And
Right.
so don't get too caught up in, oh, am I don't even think we talked about Cali sober, which is
No, we gotta
so
talk about cat, which is like the
funny.
original like
Yes.
request.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. But yeah, like this getting too stuck in, oh, I identify with this and I identify with that. It's like at the end of the day it's just a concept and a conversation around all of this.
Well, I think it's hard to, cause or like to just sometimes, or I guess I understand why, like you said, there is um a whole like physical aspect to our brains wanting to categorize, because it makes it easier, it removes the decisions, all that kind of stuff. But I also put it back to your value system, because for me, one of my values is like honesty and integrity. And it's like if I sit here and tell someone that I'm a sober curious coach, they already have this kind of notion of like, okay, well, you probably don't drink. And if I sit here and say that I'm a dry, like I have to say that I'm dry-ish. Like I have to put the dry or the ish at the end so that they know that I still drink. When in reality, it's like, okay, we go 6 months, or I go 6 months, or like long periods of time without drinking, and then we'll maybe have one. I
Right.
don't and shouldn't have to explain that to somebody, but I internally feel like I'm doing myself like the disservice of not being honest, when in reality it's just like nobody fucking cares. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, you
Yeah.
just don't really drink. Like, okay, great. Like that's it.
Right. I know. It's like I wish it was just like that simple, but it's true because if you're having a conversation with someone who is contemplating redefining their relationship with alcohol and you're like, "Yeah, I'm a sober coach." What could come up for them immediately is like, "Oh shoot, like then this person like their view is like you should be sober." Even if that's not
Right.
true. And so if you
Right.
say I'm a sober curious coach, they're kind of like, okay, this person's like probably definitely sober, but they're like curious. Like, what does that mean? And then if you
Mm,
say I'm dry ish, they're like, oh, okay, so they're dry most of the time ish. There's like this little bit of, so it feels more like this person's going to be more chill and open to having a conversation potentially,
yeah.
and so I get it, but also it's just kind of frustrating sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like,
Like,
do I have to sit here and like explain to you, which I will gladly, but yeah, sometimes it is easier to,
yeah.
which I don't do this, but like if you do decide to become sober, that is a part of it too, that you're able to just say, yeah, I'm sober, which
Mhm.
equals you don't drink, or at
Right.
least in my mind. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay,
Cali
let's talk about
sober.
Cali sober. Um, so yeah, this is more so about no alcohol or hard drugs, but you occasionally. or I guess it's up to the person how often you're using cannabis or psychedelics. Yeah, like like conscious consumption, and I
Mm,
put quotation marks around that, just because whatever, like that's what's conscious to me is not conscious to someone else, right? So, but yeah, it's more so about like no alcohol or hard drugs, and I think like I'm just like trying to think of what the next kind of step is. Like if you're like, okay, like we have all of these different categories now. Okay, like now what? you know? Um, and I would say like, well, that's kind of up to you. Like
yeah,
you have some things to kind of like ponder over. And then if you're like, yeah, you know what, I kind of am in a space where I'd like to redefine what my relationship is with substances because of how, I want my lifestyle to be. That's why we're here. We have a whole self led course that walks you through the same process we went through and many of our clients. So
yeah.
that's like an awesome resource that it's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's our whole sort of premise and mission is this is what we're here for, is to help you understand kind of where you're at and how to navigate and take the next steps into whatever that looks like for you. And hopefully it's obviously to um improve your lifestyle overall, like whatever that looks like for you. But that's what makes us so excited about how we can be there to support you as a resource, to talk about it, to talk through it. Because sometimes you just need somebody to talk through a lot of these things, through our experiences, and then obviously working with clients too. And it reminds me of the conversation that we had during our Sip Happens workshop that we just had recently with Launch Break. And there was a question, well, two things that come to mind. One, she and this is one of the founders of Launch Break, which is a networking platform for women athletes, and she asked or was very excited about the workshop because she's like, yes, now I can understand how to talk about this subject correctly, which
Hmm.
I was like, this is the whole point. There's not really a right or wrong way to talk about it.
We
It's
just
like
gotta start
all
talking.
we just have to talk. So that was one piece of it. And then she also asked a question that was like, what do you guys think about, essentially the Cali sober aspect of this? Like, does that fall into this category? What do you think about it? And yeah, I mean, of course it falls under the umbrella of all of this, because it's you taking the steps to understand what's going to work best for you, where you are no longer numbing things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, and I also feel like I'm like, who am I to tell anyone else, like, what their relationship with substances should be?
Yeah.
I think I've been in the place where I definitely have done that,
Mm,
and of course, I'm like, yeah, like, if I visibly see someone in pain, because of their their actions or whatever, of course I'm going to think I know what's right. Um
yeah.
and also like I don't always know what's right for someone. And that's what this whole conversation is about, this movement. It gives you the opportunity to reclaim your power to decide what you want to do with something that has just been the norm. Oh, we just
Right.
drink, to celebrate because that's what we were told to do. Oh, we just drink to cope when we had a shitty day because that's what my dad did. Oh, we just, like, hold on, let's just pause for a second. Just fucking pause and you decide whether or not that's actually what you want to do. But a lot of times it requires a little bit more space than you probably think, to give
Yeah.
yourself the opportunity to truly like feel what's right for you. And that can be challenging. And that's why we're here, is to guide people through that. I also received a message on some posting that I put the other day, and this woman responded, and she was like, because I was talking about nosedive. And she's like, "Can I ask an honest question? Why is it called sober curiosity and not just sober? Are people that afraid of the truth that not everyone needs to or wants to drink to have a good time? Seems sad in a way." And I thought that was like, I was like, "Oh, I love questions like this because it it isn't always so obvious." Like, yeah, the real truth is like, um it's sober curiosity is about a broader conversation, and it's more inviting to everyone, not just
Mm,
someone who wants to be abstinent from every substance,
yeah.
and that everyone can benefit from, whether it's pulling away totally or just consuming less. That's it.
Yeah, there's a bigger picture here. It's yes, of course, we are talking specifically about drinking culture and alcohol, but there's such a bigger umbrella that this falls under of wellness and lifestyle and mind body connection and emotional resiliency. There's just so much more that into it. um, I think it is hard for people to be brutally honest with themselves and to kind of turn that leaf and really dive deep into stuff that they've been burying with all different types of numbing things, whether that's social media or food or,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And nobody wants to get to that shadow of themselves or their ego or,
Yeah.
all those like uncomfortable things. So that's why we're here is we want to talk about it, get it out in the open, take some of that shame away from it, that guilt, um, to not hide in a corner and be like, hey, you're not the only one feeling this way. And how can we help you get to the life that you want to create for yourself that's created by yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else on this topic?
Hmm. I think too, it's like just don't be afraid to say whatever the fuck you want. Like, you don't have to fall in one of these areas. You don't have to say you're sober curious. Like,
If someone
I
asks,
think
you could
it's
be like, "I'm a unicorn."
I'm a
Like, you can say
unicorn.
anything.
Like, yeah, you could say whatever the fuck you want. So I think it's like it's empowering to be able to find your voice through this process. So even if you don't really feel like you fall into any one of these categories, that's kind of like the point that we're getting at is it doesn't necessarily have to fall into one of those. But on the flip side, if you are kind of like lost and don't really know, like it could be a good starting point to maybe start into one of those categories and then kind of blossom into whatever it is you feel is most comfortable.
Yeah. Dive
Yeah.
in,
Dive
explore,
in.
have fun.
Yeah. And I think too, what we'll put in the show notes is maybe some like resources for like, obviously, we'll put our information. If you guys do decide you want to take that next step and start working with us through Nosedive, we definitely have some resources there. But we can put some other resources in there too if you're looking more towards that like recovery lifestyle or just kind of these different categories. So we'll make sure to put some resources in there. And of course, too, if this brings up anything or any other topics that you guys want to hear from us, we are open books. We love to dive into these deeper conversations on what you guys want to hear and how we can help support you, through your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep those requests coming in. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for being here. And you can
Cool,
find us
Dave.
on the gram at Nosedive Co,
That's
as well
it.
as TikTok, right?
TikToks too. Yeah, it's the same. And
Wow.
YouTube.
And YouTube. Cool.
Y'all. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. All right,
Awesome.
man.
See
Till
you
next
next time.
time.
Bye.
Bye.